Hi, everybody. I'm about to just start creating the RFP project inside of SharePoint with a little bit of Power Automate. And I thought I would just start recording to show you guys some of the basics, how we get started of working inside the Microsoft environment. Uh, yeah, all right. So we're going to go to my SharePoint. It's automateofficework.sharepoint.com. And I've got a SharePoint. It's at legal. And I think this goes to the site contents of it. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to create a document library. We're going to call it RFP. So this is going to create a tree of folders for us where we can put stuff. We can also have different folders with our unique names for all the matters that are created. We're also going to create a JavaScript file inside this folder. So I'm going to go to my editor, which I also created. And okay, go to the legal. Now I can go to RFP because it was created. It's created a folder. And now I can create a file. And I can call it javascript.js. Okay, so now if I come back here and if I refresh this page, there's now a file called javascript.js. But the funny thing about SharePoint is that they make it really difficult to be able to edit anything. Like, even if I was able to edit this, this is not a very nice editor. Uh, my editor that I've created over here, this is a much nicer experience for being able to edit things. Okay, so now we've got this, we've got our JavaScript file. Now we need to go. It used to be that you could just start creating an HTML file inside this RFP folder. Microsoft announced in July that they're going to be demanding that all JavaScript be inside of a container, inside of a web part in SharePoint. So I believe that they're going to be enforcing that starting in November, just next month. And so then we need to do this inside of a web part, which then also requires that the web part be inside of a SharePoint page. So we're going to go create a SharePoint page. I'm going to go to my pages. I'm going to go to plus new. And we're going to be creating a web part page. I believe that this is how you do it. No, that looks too weird. Okay. Maybe it's from the home page or something. You know what? Yeah. I did this thing where I customized my homepage for legal. So there is no like button to add a new app or a new page. But if I go to instead to test, I have a button here, this plus new, and I can create a new page here. If I click on this, then there's this option here for apps. I can create a new page, and you see I can use my app here. It's AOW General App. I'm wondering how I can get this plus new button on my legal, or I could just create the page here. I could create it on test. So, okay, I'm just gonna create a new page. Use the apps. Okay, create page. Okay, and now it wants a title to my page, request for proposal, or requests for proposals. Okay, and it's asking for the location of my JavaScript file. That's at automateofficework.sharepoint. .com/sites/legal/RFP/javascript.js. And if I apply that, I think it's applied. So now I can do something here, like I can do alert, hi there, save this, and now when I refresh this page, we should get the alert. Changes you have made may not be saved. I'm going to cancel. Okay, I'm going to reload. Hopefully it's been, oh, it didn't save my changes. Request for proposals. There we go. Okay, so I got my JavaScript. It says hi there. And I'm going to save my page. And it says hi there. Okay, so every time we start this page, if I refresh, it says hi there. So our JavaScript is running every time. Okay, so now, so we've got like 3 different pages on here. We've got home, we've got a new page, and we've got an item page. So we need to be able to check. So our user is going to be coming to this page, requests for proposals.aspx, and then there's going to be a question mark and like page equals home, or page equals new, or page equals item. Also, if there is no page, it's going to default and go to the home. Okay, so we're going to be looking to see, those are called URL parameters. I'm going to just do a Google search. JavaScript, get URL parameters, how to get those parameters. So first thing we need to do is check and see what our URL is. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to do a mix of these two. So we're getting the Windows location. And we can actually combine these 2 lines. Okay, now we should be able to get the parameter, URL params. I think that's where we do it. Get page. Or maybe I'll zoom in so you can see this a little bit easier. Okay, so we've got this constant, and we're going to be checking to see what the page is. And let's do alert page. Okay, so if I come here and I say question mark page equals home, and I press enter, that should alert out. There it is, it says home. So we're able to get that. If there is nothing in that variable, then it's null. That variable is null. Or I should say that constant is null. Okay, if page equals null, then page equals home. Let's also say to lower case. So we're converting it to lowercase. So even if you do like some capital letters, we're going to make it smaller. If page equals null, let's also do or page not equal to item and page not equal to new. So we can only have those three. If page equals home, we're going to say load home. Else, we can also do it like this. If page equals item, load item. Else, if page equals home. Load new. You can also just say else to catch everything else. Okay, now we need some functions. Load item. Function load new. Function load home. Okay, we're going to start with a var HTML. This. We're going to be creating our own page for each of these, and we're going to be building it. We're going to be building out this variable called HTML plus equals item. And then we've got this object in our HTML with the class AOW element. And we're going to output to its HTML, this HTML variable. And I can copy that for each of these. And I'm going to change it. So this one is new. And this one is home. Save that. And now, when I refresh this, hopefully it says home. And it's not for some reason. So we're going to go inspect our JavaScript. It's got an unexpected token. Where is that? I'm going to comment this out to see if we can isolate where this is. Refresh. So it looks like the problem is here. Maybe it's because I missed the quotation marks. Cannot read properties of null, reading to lowercase. Did I misspell that? No. It's because this is null. So instead of doing to lowercase, maybe we say if page not equal to null. Page equals page dot to lowercase. Refresh. Okay, so it's not giving us any more errors. Okay, and I just want to make sure that I do have an HTML element. Here is my element called AO, that has a class AOW element. And inside of this is where we want to put our content for this page. Load item, load new, load home. I'm going to do an alert to make sure at least one of these functions is being triggered. Nothing's being triggered. It's because I need quotation marks around this word home. Home is not defined. Well, it wasn't before, and because there were no quotation marks around the word home, so it was treating it like a variable, but now this is a string. All right, now it says there's an error, assignment to a constant variable. So, okay, so constants you can only define once. You cannot define them multiple times. So I'm going to call this, let's call it a let. All right, it's doing load home, and we're getting the word home in our screen here. Okay, I'm going to want to have like a nice header here, a nice banner across our tool. So we're going to let's start creating some HTML. HTML equals I'll use some backticks to indicate my string. Okay, div ID equals RFP banner. We're going to have an image, and its source is going to be /site/legal/RFP images RFP logo. Let's make it an SVG. Okay, now we're going to go look for RFP logo. SVG. That one looks nice. RFP. We can also just create this in Inkscape. Create a new document. Okay, so we're going to create something like that. Then we need a triangle. Okay, we need to align these relative to the first selected. I need it to be, no, to the right and the top. There we go. And now I can path, and I say difference. There we go. So that took that away. And now I need square back here. And I need to align these again. Now I need to rotate this. And now do a difference of those two. There we go. And now I need the letters RFP. Okay, and let's align this in the middle. Maybe bring this down a little bit to kind of place it in the middle. Okay, now we need to do the difference. There we go. And we need to join these two, the union. All right, so now we have our image, RFP. Bring that to the edge. Okay, and now we need to crop off the bottom. Go to File, Document Properties. And we're going to make the height a little bit smaller. All right, now we're going to save this. Save as. And this is going to be RFP logo.svg. And SVG is really nice to have as an image. It stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, and it means that we are drawing not with pixels, but we are drawing with like math. We're using angles and like curves, and we're telling the browser how to draw this. So it will draw it perfectly at any size, and there will never be any blurriness. All right, so let's close this. And now we've got this in the downloads folder. Open up our logo. And here's what it looks like. And it looks great at any size. Notice there's never any blurriness. It's always sharp. Okay, so we need to put this into our site contents. Oops, site contents for legal. Go into the RFP folder. Create a new folder called images. we're going to upload RFP logo into it. Okay, so now we can come to here, and this is our RFP logo. Let's also get the person's email address before I show you the refreshed page. So to get the email address, I'm going to do an AJAX call. And we're going to make this AJAX call to our SharePoint API. So the URL, sites legal API, web, I think it's called current user, SharePoint API, current user. Yeah, /web/current user. And we can say select. I think it's going to be select email address. Headers. We want to receive this accept application/JSON. OData equals no metadata. And we're going to console log this out. And also let's make this async false. Refresh. All right, here is our data all about the current logged in user. We have their email. So that's what I'm going to select. I'm going to say select in the URL $$ select equals email. And let's create const equals, wait, let email address equal, it's going to be blank for now. And then once we get it here, we say email equals data.email. And then we can put it into here. Div ID equals RFP site name. Div ID equals email address. We're going to put in the person's email address. Okay, save that. Oh, I know why. Because we need to, now that we have this HTML, we need to output it to our AOW element dot HTML, Sorry, let's do append. So we're not replacing all the current HTML in there, but we're going to add to it. And I'm going to get rid of these alerts because we know these functions are working. And then the same with this .html function. I'm going to call it append, append, append. Save. Refresh the page. All right, so we did get our image. It's a little big, and that's because we need to tell in CSS to make this smaller. But let's see how big we want it to be. Width equals 50 pixels. That looks a lot better. Let's put in some CSS. And let's say RFP banner. We're going to give it a background color. Let's do a light blue. And then we're going to say RFP banner. The image width is going to be 50 pixels. Let's give it a margin right of 10 pixels. RFP site name. Let's give it a font size 36 pixels. My email address isn't appearing yet. ID email address. That's because I need the word address at the end of this variable. There, now we have the email address of the current user. Okay, now we just need to align these things with HTML. We also need some padding inside this banner. Banner padding 10 pixels. Okay, this RFP site name. We need to change its display to inline block. And we need to change this one, the email address. Display inline block. You know, instead I'm thinking about making this into a table, so we can have this table cell as far over to the right as we want. Table trtd. Maybe we would just call this ID equals RFP site name. Oops. I wanted that to be the TD. We can now get rid of this div ID. And we can get rid of that. TD ID equals email address. turn off the table row, turn off the table, turn off the div. And actually, I'm thinking about giving the site logo its own table cell. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, so everything is aligned nicely, like in a center kind of a way. It's in the middle of everything else. Okay. And now the table just inside of our RFP banner, we should give that a width 100%, but let's give it a max width of 1,000 pixels, so it's not too wide. And then our email address, we're going to say text align equals right. And we should give it some space on the right side. It seems like we lost our padding inside of our div, which I'm not sure why. Oh, maybe I never actually typed that in. Yeah, banner. Padding 10 pixels. Also, this very first column, let's give it a width of 1 pixel, so it'll be the smallest it can be, while also being big enough to fit the logo. Our table should be expanding. Maybe I just have to try, just have to try refreshing. Okay, so now we have a nice banner here. We're also going to be removing, like we're going to make this bigger, and we're going to remove these things. This right here, we need to do a click, and we can tell JavaScript to do the clicking for us. Span. Oh, this is a button. Data automation ID. So there's an item with that data automation ID. And it's actually a button with this property equal to this. And we're going to tell it to click it. Okay, so we've got this button, and it should be clicked now. If I refresh, yep, it's constantly, it now automatically clicks this button to enlarge everything. Okay, so this is a much better experience. Later, we're also going to get rid of this upper stuff, these upper SharePoint banners. Okay, so now we're going to start collecting the list of current RFPs, which we don't have any yet, but we're going to get the data ready so that we can find them. Okay, so we're back at our RFP document library inside of SharePoint. We're going to create a new folder called folders. And inside of folders, we're going to create one called one. And inside of the one folder, we're going to create another folder, also call it one. Okay, and the reason why we're doing this is because SharePoint has a maximum of 5,000 items in one folder. An item can either be a folder or a file. So it's either of those. You can only have up to 5,000 of them in a single folder. So in order for us to have all of our RFPs as their own folder, we're going to have them split into these multiple subfolders. We've got like a parent folder called one and a subfolder called one. So now in the subfolder one, we can have 5,000 RFPs, and I'm going to create a new folder and just call it, I'll just call it just some random letters, create it. Okay, so we've got an RFP here. With this unique ID that I just typed in. We have one of them in this subfolder, one. I can have up to 5,000 of them. And then when we create number 5001, the code is going to look and see how many we already have in this folder, and it's going to create folder number 2 and then create the new RFP in that new subfolder number 2. Okay, and once we have 5,000 of these subfolders in parent folder one. It's also going to check when it's creating the new RFP to see how many items are inside of this subfolder one. And if we already have 5,000, it's going to then create parent folder number 2. And then it's going to create a new subfolder 1 all over again for folder number 2. Okay, so this is how we have to architect how we hold our data, just because this is what SharePoint demands. You can only have a maximum of 5,000 things inside of a folder. And we are creating folders to create a new RFP. Then inside the RFP, we might have a tree of folders where we're going to be saving different kinds of data. Maybe we want to be able to upload files to the RFP. Any kind of files of like emails, PDFs, I don't know, Excel spreadsheets. Okay, so here we're back in the document library. We have this RFP. We're also going to have a bunch of metadata about this RFP. And the way we're going to collect that data is by adding a column to our document library. There are different kinds of data that you can hold in a column. The one that we use most often is text, which is only up to 256 characters. After that, you also have multiple lines of text. The difference between these two is that this text that's only up to 256 characters is searchable very easily by SharePoint. And so a lot of times we like to just constrain our users to that amount of data. Maybe it's just like the person's name or the approver or maybe a short name for this. And those things are searchable. But if you need to store something bigger, like a long description, then that's going to be more than 256 characters for your users. And then that's also not going to be searchable by default. There is a way to make this type of data searchable that is called indexing. And you can index a column in SharePoint if you really need to be able to search in that column. But you're also limited. You only have like up to 20 columns that you can index. So it's doable, but also do it sparingly. Okay, and the one other, I guess two other ones that I normally use, I use the number column, and I also use the yes, no column type. Yes, no is a Boolean. Okay, so we have some columns of data that we're going to be tracking with our RFP. One of them, oh, by the way, the name of this folder, AS, all of that, it's not searchable when you're doing a search in SharePoint metadata. So what I like to do is I like to create a short text column, and I'll call it custom ID. Okay. The way folders work inside of SharePoint, and the way then like tables of data like this work, it's actually two different ways of working with data in SharePoint. So you can do a search by a folder and get like the name of its parent and the number of files inside of it. That is working with the data as a file structure. Then working with these columns, doing searches off of these columns and things and filtering, that is working with the data as a list of data. So it's two different ways, and the two don't really mix together. You can search for you can search for an item by its URL, and you can get its unique ID, and then its unique ID will tell you what all this data is over here. So you can kind of switch between the two, but you don't do them at the same time. Okay, and I should turn on column settings, show hide columns, and then show the ID. So you can see the unique ID number. Apply that. Okay, so this one is ID number 7 for this folder. It's the 7th item that we've created in this document library. We've created several folders and a couple of files. Okay, so we've got a custom ID. We should also have a requester. The requester is going to be the email address of the person that created the request. We're also going to have an approver. The name of the approver. Let's also have a number for the date that it's been approved. And then let's also do some approver notes. And that's going to be more than 256 characters. Oh, we also need a phase or a status. Let's call it status. And I should also do the name of the folder and the subfolder. Folder. Subfolder. Okay, so we filled in a bunch of metadata here. I am the requester. The status is new, the folder is 1, and the subfolder is 1. Okay, so we've got a bunch of data here. Now we want to be able to show this on this home screen. And the way we do that, we go down to load home. Okay, we're going to do an AJAX call to SharePoint. Okay, so we're going to make a call to this SharePoint API. That's at web lists get by title. The title is RFP. We want all the items, and we're going to want to filter this because we don't want to get like our JavaScript file and the images folder. So we're going to get any items. We're going to filter equals, and we're going to say custom ID not equal to null. Okay, and we want to set our headers so that we get back this data in JSON format. So we say accept application JSON. OData equals no metadata. Okay, let's console log this out just so we can make sure we're getting our data. And we can also bring this into our AJAX call. Okay, so now we've got some data here. Value, we're getting at least one item back. And yep, here is our custom ID. Here's our folder 1. The requester is me, status is new, and the subfolder is 1. So we're getting all this data back. That's great. Okay, so now we can say for each of the items inside data, so we say data dot value dot for each function, and then let's call it item. We're going to need to create a new HTML. Wait, we already have HTML. So what we need to do, HTML plus equals, we need to create a new table. And this very first one is going to be the ID. And let's do status, requester. Well, that's probably enough. Turn off our table. Okay, then so for each line item, we're going to add to our HTML value. We're going to create a new row. Okay, and now we can say item dot custom ID. Status is item dot status. Item dot requester. Okay, refresh. Okay, so we got back some data inside this table. We need to make this table look nicer, of course. Okay, so we come here. Let's give our table ID RFP requests. And then inside of our CSS, you can say border collapse equals collapse. For RFP requests, TD. Yeah, we want padding of 10 pixels. Let's put a border around all the table rows. Border 1 pixel solid. 7s. And let's also change the first row, which is our header of the table. So that's the first child. I'm going to say background color 7's color is going to be white, and font weight is bold. Our border isn't working. Now it works if I type it in here. Maybe if I just refresh, will my border ever show up? Anyway, so you get the basics here. You're able to see how we're getting this data out. It fills in the contents of this table. So the user will be able to see this. We're going to refine this even further so that the user only sees items that they are allowed to see, probably the items that they have created. If they are an approver or an admin like myself, then they'll be able to see everything. We'll also make it so that this row is clickable, so that when they click on it, it will go to page equals item, and item equals, and then we'll have the custom ID of this item. There will also be a new button at the top. And I don't know, we might restrict it so that only certain people can create new requests. We might have a list of people. And when they click on the new button, it'll then say in the URL page equals new, and we'll create a new page there. We'll be able to take all of our lists of data for like the list of the countries and things. By the way, the data like this, the countries, the way that I recommend you do it is you create a new file and you call it like countries.json. And then you just come here. And then you have a list of these, like Netherlands, UK, USA, something like that. Okay, so that's how we hold it in the back end. And then to be able to get that data, you'll do an AJAX call to it, and then you'll create a dropdown. So your users can use that in the dropdown. All right, I think that's a good place to stop this video. This video has probably been going for like an hour, probably close to an hour and a half. So I'll leave it there. If anybody is getting benefit from this, let me know. Let me know if this is interesting for anybody, and I'll see you guys later.